Good afternoon, students, and welcome to World History. This is the first of several video lectures that I'll be posting on Schoology, and you'll be also watching during class. The first chapter that we're going to be talking about is from Chapter 1, called The First Humans. And we're going to focus mostly on prehistory, which is simply before history started to begin being written. Okay. The two sections that we're going to cover in this chapter, the first section is called Early Humans, and the second section is called the Neolithic Revolution. Now in Early Humans, we're going to talk about how humans have spread throughout the world, and the Neolithic Revolution will talk about systematic agriculture and how farming has affected civilizations and has developed into civilizations. Okay, so the big idea that we're going to get in this section, we're going to talk about how humans have developed according to scientists over time, how we've evolved supposedly from southern apes to what we are today. Now this is the first subsection in section 1, and you want to call it before history. So what do you call the time before history? Well, it's called prehistory. It's simply referred to as the time before writing was developed. History begins when writing begins. Prehistory is simply just one big puzzle that we're trying to figure out. Now, one of the most famous fictional characters of people who put stories together is our friend Indiana Jones. If you haven't seen this movie, you definitely need to. It's a classic. So Indiana Jones was an archaeologist. It's someone who discovers artifacts and fossils and tries to piece together what was life like during that time that human or civilization existed. So archaeology is simply the study of the past through an analysis of artifacts such as tools, weapons, art, building, etc. Archaeologists and anthropologists use archaeology and biological information to create theories, just theories, not facts, about what our past was like. Now, anthropology is the study of human life and culture. Anthropology simply, literally in Greek, means the study of man. Archaeology in Greek literally means the study of old things. Anthropologists use both artifacts and fossils to kind of have an idea of what people's lives would be like every day. Archaeology is a subfield of anthropology. It's kind of like math. You have math, and then you have subfields of math. You have calculus, geometry, algebra. Well, anthropology is kind of like that. You have anthropology, and then you have subfields of anthropology. You have archaeology, linguistics anthropology, cultural anthropology, etc. So try and think of it like that. Now what you're going to do, I'm going to give you a second, and I want you to create a Venn diagram where we break down what an anthropologist, what's the difference between anthropology and what's the difference between archaeology. So in your OneNote, go ahead and create a Venn diagram that looks kind of like the one that's displayed on the screen right now. Now with a partner, I want you to take about 3 minutes. This video is going to be paused, and each of you come up with a list of things that are different and things that they have in common with archaeology and anthropology. Okay, I hope that helped. Alright, so now we're going to move on to how do anthropologists and archaeologists date things? How do we know how old this pottery is, or how old are these bones, or anything like that? So there are some simple methods of dating, and then there are some more complex methods of dating. Some simple methods of dating, you can even figure out how old something is. The first one is through stratigraphy. Stratigraphy is when you look at the layers of the earth. Every layer After over a lot of time, you have dirt that's just been piled upon and piled upon and piled upon. Well, if you look at a certain layer based on, like for instance, this layer, if you find artifacts that come from this layer, then it's from the Jurassic period. And so that's stratigraphy. Simply just looking at the layer of the earth that that artifact or that fossil came from, and that's the time, roughly about the time when that artifact existed. The other thing is through tree rings. Now this is really interesting. Tree rings can, if you slice a tree in half, like this, and you look at the different rings, it can tell you what kind of happened in that atmosphere. So A, the center of it begins the first year of growth. Now you can see right here there's this big gap in between this ring and this ring. Well, what we can learn from there is that it was a really rainy season. It experienced a lot of growth. Now there's one with a little bit of distance between this year and this year of growth, and we can tell that it was a very dry season. Now this is kind of interesting. I want you to take a second and think about what happened here. What do you think might have happened? You can pause the video and try to discuss with your classmates and teacher what could have happened here. Okay. What happened here was probably a scar from a forest fire. So you can tell a lot from a tree ring. Now the other simple form of dating is through road cuts. When construction workers blast through the sides of mountains, you can see a simple form of stratigraphy, looking at the different layers of the earth to see how old something is. And you can kind of see the different colors. So if you're ever driving in Tennessee or up through the Mississippi, you can see some of these road cuts. All right, now some of the more complex things and dating for fossils and artifacts is through thermoluminescence, radiocarbon dating, and micro and biological analysis. Now thermoluminescence, you want to write this down. Thermoluminescence is a process used to date ancient objects that have at one point been heated. So an example would be when pottery was made. Now using this technique, scientists can date how long an object has been since it's been heated. It's pretty cool. Now this, you can actually measure something that has been up to 200,000 years old, which is really neat. Now the next thing is radiocarbon dating. Now radiocarbon dating determines an object's age by measuring the amount of C14. C14 is simply just the carbon. Now you're like, Miss Rogers, why does that even matter? Well, what do you breathe in? You breathe in carbon dioxide. Well, every living object or living animal or human breathes oxygen, breathes in that carbon dioxide. Well, when an object dies, carbon is being released, and it can hold up to 50,000 years. So it won't be able to do dinosaurs, but it might be able to read how old a human might be. Up to 50,000 years, depending on how much carbon is left in the human's body. The next one is blood molecules. Now blood molecules, we can learn a lot about blood molecules. And blood molecules can survive up to millions of years, and it yields a lot of DNA information. And I'm going to give you one example of a case where we've used their blood molecules to determine a lot. And this person is, but before we get there, let's have a discussion question. Now hold your answers. I want to see, class, what do you know? On which of the following fossils would radiocarbon dating be useful? Now remember, radiocarbon only lasts up to 50,000 years. Is it A, dinosaurs, B, humans, C, tools, or D, rocks? You're right, it's B, humans. Okay, so I like to think of archaeology and anthropology kind of like my favorite show, CSI. I love CSI. I used to watch it a lot, but I finished the season, so I'm kind of over it. But CSI basically pieces together a crime that had just happened. Well, archaeologists, they kind of piece together what happened, maybe a crime, millions, hundreds, thousands of years ago. One of the most famous crimes, or really one of the oldest crimes, is the Iceman. Now, the Iceman, what's so interesting about this guy right here that you see laying on this table, he is almost 5,300 years old. He was discovered in the 90s by two hikers that were going through the Swiss Alps, which are located in Switzerland and in Austria. This guy was found in Austria. Now, the Iceman, through archaeologists, they discovered through a scan and uses his blood analysis that he was born in 3500 BC, that he's a man, and that also he was stabbed in the artery and bled out, and also probably experienced the fatal blow with a blow to his head. So that's kind of like CSI right there. You figured out how he died, how painful was his death, and how old he was. He was probably about 45. And what's the coolest thing is they pulled DNA from his skin and took samples from about 3,000 volunteers, DNA samples from people that live in the area that he was found. And he supposedly has about 19 living descendants. There you go. So that's pretty neat. Okay, well, we're going to stop the video for right now, and I hope that you had a very interesting video lecture. Oh, before we go, though, I want to show you, what do your notes look like? Hopefully, they look something like this. All right, well, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time.